51.85% today of matters in the District
Court of South Australia is related
District
to the
Court of South Australia child abuse cases.
Yeah, it's
is that not fucking retarded?
It's insane. I started this weekly series about, I think, last January or last February.
Yeah, I believe I was watching it every week.
Yeah, and I always had people say, "Oh, you know, I've been in this area of field for about 13 years now."
Yeah.
And I never like bring it up. I never, it's not a conversation starter, but I started seeing how actually bad it was, and so last January I thought I might just check the court list, and I collated a list over a week of the percentages of people, and it was about 25% per average. And then there was a reporter that actually took that on and did a news.com story on it, and people were like, "That's disgusting." And I had a lot of people saying, "You should do it every week." And last year, I think it was November, it was the highest day last year was 41.2 or 42.1%, one of the two. In court that day was rated child sexual abuse, and the leading story on the news that night was a politician trying to get a Hungry Jack's restaurant banned from being built within like a kilometre of a school because, fast food, bad. And I'm sitting there thinking...
Well, fucking raping children's worse.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I started doing this... I started the law change of super survivors 5 years ago. I've been advocating whenever there's a loophole that's being exploited.
Was this the one we were talking about on the previous podcast with the superannuation?
Yeah, how offenders basically, when they're about to get
hide
sued,
their money, all of their super.
Like there was there's a guy that I dealt with a while ago that he had $3 million in super, or almost $3 million in super from selling a business, and he got found guilty and got a suspended sentence, which was shocking in itself. And when we went to sue him, he said, "I'll just sell my house, you get nothing." Like, you got $3 million in super. Like, you're not a guy that's going to claim poor over this. And it's another weaponise that offenders are having against victim survivors by simply saying, we're going to keep controlling the narrative. Where I saw was actually when I first sent my oldest son to childcare all those years ago, where I've gone, wow, I finally have to trust someone with my kids. And that's when I started trying to make it as hard as it can. And people are shocked to hear that it's never happened to me. I was never abused as a kid. When I became a lawyer, there was a file in one of my old firms that no one wanted to touch. And I was like, well, I'll do it. And saw how much it meant for someone to be believed and also to get justice. Because the conviction rate for historical abuse is every 1,000 reports, only 100 get investigated by police, 6 get convicted, and 3 get overturned on appeal. So I did a talk with Grace Tame in Melbourne about a year ago, and I wrote the speech literally an hour before I went on, and I was like, what's the most trusted news source in Australia? Sportsbet. Went on Sportsbet, and I was like, right, well, conviction rate of conviction rate of 0.003%. The closest stats I could find to that day was 100 to 1 of Pauline Hanson become the next Prime Minister of Australia.
That's crazy.
And if you think how remote that is of occurring, that's how likely it is for you to get away with this. And so I thought, if you can hit them where the hip pocket where it hurts and try to deter it, look at all the new mobile phone laws where if you touch your phone in the car or the detection cameras, it's $1,000 on the spot fine. Everyone uses their phone on the car. I don't do it driving just because it's so dangerous.
One of my friends got pinged with his phone on the fucking seat.
Yeah.
And he can't dispute it. He's like, yeah, it was on the seat and it was fucking on. I didn't touch it. That's just where I put my phone.
Yeah, if it's on your lap, if you're touching your body, you're cooked. But the reason why most of us aren't driving whilst texting is because we're worried about the financial impact. The cops cannot fine every single person that uses their phone because it'll be inundating courts and fines units on that. But the reason why we do it is a deterrent. Now, if you're that likely to get away with this offending, I thought, why don't I try and find a way to deter this from occurring? Because, you do not want to lose everything you worked for. And the easiest way to do that is change laws to make sure that it relates to this and this cause only of child abuse, because there's no other standalone crime that is like this. There's no legal justification for abuse of a 7-year-old.
Do you think that the 51.85% could also, I don't want to say be a pro thing, but it could be more people coming out and actually voicing what happened to them?
Yeah, it takes an average 29.4 years to report what's happened.
Because I don't think pedophilia and child abuse would be like happening more now. I just think it's getting uncovered more. I think it is more rampant.
There was a study from late, I think it was September 2023, the Australian maltreatment study, that said 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday.
Really?
So out of an average 30 student classroom, that's 8 students likely to be abused. And there was a report back in New South Wales in about 2022 that said abuse matters since 2010 have gone up 4.5% per year. And so that encapsulates whether it's in-person dissemination material. You look at for instance, the amount of people getting busted for exploitation material, and we call it exploitation material instead of child porn because porn denotes consent. A child cannot consent, so by virtue it's exploitation material. You never see guys getting arrested with 1 or 2 images. It's literally guys with hundreds of thousands, and I don't know, like a terabyte's 1,000
fucking gigs. If you have that in pictures and video, I'll tell you now, this is a terabyte here. I can record 500 podcasts on that.
Yeah,
2 hour long.
And it's not just average blow like you and I. I dealt with one guy that, this was probably 11 or 12 years ago. He was in his 70s and he had material back then from accessing the dark web. And you think, my mum can't even open an iPhone without me trying to help and show her what to do. And if you grew up in the 50s, 60s, you're not technologically savvy. And for someone to be able to access the dark web at that age to
learn how to do it.
Exactly.
They must be really wanting to see it.
And it's, you look at it, say if you see a bikie or a drug dealer get arrested, the first thing you do is you see a news crew at their house and they're recording their cars getting taken away.
SWAT.
Yeah, but all these offenders that you see, that they're normally, middle-aged married men or young single men, that they're on there's one guy that was arrested, he was a teacher, and yet he was going overseas 2 or 3 times a year, had a nice brand new car, and he had all this material. And you're thinking, you can't afford holidays, you can't afford a brand new car on your wage. What are you getting for those images? So it's literally they're actually monetizing them. And
there was that massive case in Morphett Vale.
Jad Brooker.
Is that his name? Not too long ago, where the police actually found him he had hundreds and hundreds of videos of him abusing children.
The FBI was after him for years, and they managed to find him because he had a little birthmark right inside of his stomach, a little dot, and the FBI was looking for him, and all of a sudden he popped up in Adelaide in a massive syndicate here that had a Labor advisor and a former prison guard, that they're all doing it. And he's gone down as one of the worst offenders in Australia. He got 30 years prison. There was also the Queensland childcare worker that was done with, I think, 1,500 charges related to 97 children.
That was recent as well. That was within the last 2 years, I believe.
Yeah, and you think with that, they could have stopped him 5 years ago when another educator at the childcare centre reported him. And after all came out, she got arrested. They said that she access material to show a reporter that this is proof that I reported or I made a complaint against this offender, and she had the staff force, like the Raptor team, search her house and arrest this, I think she was about a 60-something-year-old Yugoslavian woman, that she blew the whistle on this guy. And I think it was Anglicare or one of the Catholic institutions that actually pushed for the prosecution, saying that she accessed private material, when all she was trying to justify to a reporter is, this is the time I reported the danger, and he kept on going to offend. Like, the police didn't investigate, they didn't take his phone, didn't look at his computer, and they would have seen thousands of images and videos of him abusing people.
The police just give me the shit sometimes. It's just, the thing with this, you would know better than me, because you deal with these people a lot, so you would have a lot more of an insight to it. Is one of the biggest reasons of people offending that they were offended against when they were children?
No,
that's a misconception, because that's a misconception that a lot of people act. I would have thought that is why.
No, I don't know the actual statistics, but the percentages are quite low because people realise how it actually impacts them. I don't know if I've ever had an offender that
has been
that I've sued
against.
It's usually just a crime of, it's not like a snap crime like murder or a fight that can kick off in a matter of seconds. Like, if I've seen offenders where they have an attraction to their neighbour, and you don't just go to your neighbour's house and knock on the door and say, hey, can your kid come to mine? It's a level of grooming the parents, gaining their trust, weaseling your way into their circle, and then doing it that. So it's really a standalone crime because there's no legal justification. I had one guy once try to say, oh, but, she came on to me. I've even as recently, I had an offender in New South Wales.
She came on to him. Sorry, did you just say?
A 7-year-old came on to a grown man.
My fucking God.
I even had a convicted offender in New South Wales who abused all 3 of his daughters. And I started suing him on behalf of my clients. And I get a phone call from his wife one day. And even though he pled guilty to offending against 2 of the children, the wife told me that her daughters are lying, and then she said to me, well, do you know what? I hope someone sexually abuses your children. And I'm like, what? And
mate, that gives me shivers down my fucking spine.
This is the kind of stuff I deal with. I get people trolling my Instagram page. I get threats every now and then. I get abusive messages. And
but from how? You should be the most liked man in Australia.
Well, that's
anyone who doesn't like you, like maybe as a person, I don't know if they don't like you as a person outside of what you do, but to attack what you do for work is the wildest thing of all time.
It's not a divisive subject. Like you look at politics. Like politics, the federal election is going to come down to the wire.
Yeah,
you've got we've had a referendum in 99 about to become a republic. We had the voice vote. We've had all this stuff that divides people. But this isn't the kind of topic that divides. And I've always said about the law changes my advocacy, the only people that would hate me would be the ones that are going to most likely hear from me.